Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Sunday, December 12th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Rose Bowl game against Utah is in 20 days. The game against Michigan in 350 days. The Buckeyes have started preparations for that Rose Bowl game, but they are doing it for the moment without CJ Stroud. He was in New York for the Heisman ceremony last night. He did not win it, but as they say in the Oscars, it's an honor just to be nominated. Something else that's an honor, hosting a podcast with Buckeye Scoop's Tony Gerdeman. He's my guest this morning. Tony, thank you for honoring me and our listeners with your presence.
Thank you, Tom. I would say it is an honor to be on the show, but it's more of an obligation.
Oh, I'm just glad you feel obligated. Otherwise, it's just me talking to myself. So, as we're talking Rose Bowl right now. They're getting ready for the Rose Bowl against Utah. They're going to have to do it, however, without cornerback Ryan Watts. He announced on Friday that he was entering the transfer portal. Are you surprised that it happened? And I guess as a follow-up question, are you particularly surprised that it happened right now?
I am surprised when these things happen during the season. I'm still getting used to the timing of these things as guys leave earlier to find their new homes earlier, to at least go through the list of suitors earlier. It continues to surprise me that players don't wait until the end of the season, but coaches aren't waiting to the end of the season. ADs aren't waiting to name new coaches. So I don't know that the end of the season is any kind of linear judge of anything anymore. So, and I'm not necessarily surprised that Ryan Watts is leaving. I think he had an opportunity to play next year, and his leaving maybe speaks more to what's going to happen at coaching or what he feels is going to happen with his opportunity to play. But this is a guy who's in his second year, was moved around a little bit this year, started the opener against Minnesota, and then played a little bit here and there. He was looked at as a possibility of free safety after Josh Proctor went down, and they were looking for options to help out or to take over for Bryson Shaw in that one high look. That didn't happen, and then he was moved back to corner a little bit, and maybe he's just looking for a solid land somewhere else and a fresh start, an opportunity to find more playing time. Because even if he does win a starting job, he started season opener this year, and by the end of the year he wasn't playing. So maybe he's looking for an easier road, a more guaranteed road of playing time. And really, I shouldn't even say maybe. That's why most of these guys transfers, they want to play. And even if he's one of the top four guys next year, if that were to be the case, it doesn't mean you're going to play. And so, it's probably better for him to go look for a place where he's going to be one of the top two guys, or feels he will be. And then he can establish how good he is. He has a unique set of measurables and skills, 6'3", 200 pounds, 205 pounds. I think he's listed at. He's not your typical corner. And when you're standing in the same vicinity of him, he does not look like a corner. He has been able to cover like a corner at times this year, but not well enough to stay in the game and stay a part of the Ohio State defense. So this is 2 years in, haven't really established yourself. It stops being a surprise when they hit that transfer portal at year 2, year 3.
And, there are a million questions at that corner position, starting with, the defensive coordinator who's coming in, Jim Knowles, and what exactly is he going to be looking for in terms of corner builds and man versus zone and all of that kind of stuff. And then position coaches, who's staying, who's going. And then, Seven Banks, Cam Brown, are they both back? Or is one of them going to leave? Is one of them go to the NFL? I mean, you've got, and will they be healthy? There's so many questions at that corner position that, a couple of years into your college career, are you willing to risk the uncertainty around all of those different questions at a time? It was not a total shock to see Watts enter the portal for me either. Something else that wasn't a total shock was Tyreke Smith. He is apparently planning to attend the Senior Bowl, which if he does go ahead and attend the Senior Bowl, that would mean he is done being a Buckeye after the Rose Bowl. But that's not necessarily a done deal, because as we learned with Thayer Munford last year, you can accept a Senior Bowl invite and then not actually go to the Senior Bowl and depart for the NFL. So, what do you make of Tyreke Smith and the Senior Bowl? Was that something that was a surprise to you?
I don't know if I was set one way or another yet on Tyreke Smith. I think maybe you kind of expect the guys to come back who have an opportunity. He was a senior, but he does have the 3-year option, and he wasn't healthy for the entire season. And would this be an opportunity for him to come back and show that he can be healthy? Or has it gotten to the point where you've just gotten so frustrated being unhealthy and rehabbing most of for like the last 3 years of college? Would you rather go get paid to do that? And maybe you can be healthy for a pro career, but even if you aren't, the rehab, you're still cashing checks and you still have a contract, and there is still that ability where it's maybe it makes it easier. I don't know if it does, but I think there is, I don't know that there's enough film, but there is film out there where he looks very, very good. And he can definitely increase that with a strong Senior Bowl. We've seen guys go to the Senior Bowl, blow up, and it can almost erase what you've done the prior season. If you go to the Senior Bowl and dominate, that carries a lot of weight. And then you go to the combine and do well, that carries a lot of weight. And you can essentially render any ill things you've done on the field, in the actual college game, kind of render that moot and move beyond that. And so this would be an opportunity for that. It's one of those things where, I don't know if he was trying to decide whether to stay or go, if he's still trying to decide whether to stay or go. But if the Senior Bowl says, hey, we'd like to have you, we only have so many invitations, you better say yes, just to secure your spot, and then decide after that. But Senior Bowl can do a lot of things for him. We've seen it, what it did for Terry McLaurin, moved him up to like a 3rd round pick, and probably should have been a 1st rounder at that point. But it's an opportunity that for a guy like Tyreke Smith to be seen as much as he was for the Senior Bowl committee. They don't invite everybody. They're looking for like the top 60 guys or so, top 50 or something like that. And so, they viewed him as one of those, and that's an opportunity that's too good to pass up unless he chooses to come back. And this is the first sign that he's probably not going to be back.
As you were talking about the opportunity the Senior Bowl provides, I was like, I'm going to pull up Terry McLaurin's stats and give a good example of Terry McLaurin, who went into the Senior Bowl and was not necessary. He was someone I think a lot of people were talking about it like 5th, 6th round pick. He'll probably get drafted, and then he had a real good week in Mobile, and it was like, oh, turns out Terry McLaurin is extremely good at football. And you sort of saw hints of that at Ohio State. He averaged 20 yards a catch his senior year. But he had 114 yards, 436 yards, 701 yards in his 3 years at Ohio State. And then went to the NFL, 808, and then 1,118. So, and then he's got 919 already this year. So it is quite possible that Terry McLaurin could, for 7 consecutive years, have his number of receiving yards increase every single year, spanning from college to the NFL. That would be pretty good. That I don't know how many people have done that, but I would imagine not that many. Football, of course, not the only sport that they play at Ohio State, no matter what it may seem like at times. They do play a little basketball every once in a while, and they played some pretty darn good basketball on Saturday. Ohio State won over Wisconsin 73-55. That was a number 21 versus number 22 matchup, which seemed like, okay, this should be a pretty good game, and it was not a particularly competitive game. One of the reasons for that was EJ Liddell, 28 points on 11 for 16 from the floor. Tony, you and I were talking right before we hit record. This was an interesting matchup between those two teams because it was sort of a strength on weakness and weakness on strength kind of matchup. But EJ Liddell feels like he's someone who might be a strength for them almost no matter who they're playing this year at this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch him because Wisconsin has a front court of 6'9" and 7 foot, and EJ Liddell is all of maybe 6'6.5", and he can move guys around. He's stronger than anybody, but his mid-range game, he opened the game with a 3, and that stretches out the defense and puts them in a bad position. He drove a few times, and he can face guys up, which he did. And if they don't have a hand up, he's just going to take an 18-footer over them. And he was 11 of 16 from the field against Wisconsin, so he made most of his shots. He was 10 of 13 from 2. To give you an idea, like if he's inside the paint, he's probably close to 60% shooter this year, if not better. And he's just a really, really difficult matchup. Is continuing to put the ball on the floor better, and as a great help defender on the block shots, averaging 3 blocks a game this year. And this was just this, as you said, it was a strength against weakness where Wisconsin had nothing for him And it's been that way for most of the year. He had 28 points in this one, averaging now probably right around almost exactly 20 points a game, and is a reliable, consistent scorer. And when he only gives you like 14 one night, it's because somebody else is blown up, and he's just happy to be a second wheel. And then when he needs to be the alpha dog, he can do that, as he did in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, the front court, obviously a strength for Ohio State. They out-rebounded Wisconsin 49-28, which anytime you do that, you're probably in pretty decent shape. Outscored them in the paint as well. But, the strength on weakness for Wisconsin against Ohio State was the guard play. That guard play was a little bit of a question mark for Ohio State. But it sort of feels like maybe they're starting to figure out some answers there as well.
Yeah, and this was a game where Wisconsin's star sophomore guard, Johnny Davis, averaging 20 points a game coming in. He scored 24 in this one, but most of those points were after the game was already settled. And Brad Davison, their other guard, came into this game as the co-Big Ten Player of the Week, averaging 18 points per game over the last week. Those two guys were going to come in and they're going to get 30 to 40 points, and would Ohio State be able to match them or negate them with their own guard points? Because Ohio State's guards, you never know what you're going to get from night to night. Jamari Wheeler may give you 9, may give you none. And you could say the same thing for Michi Johnson, Malachi Branham, and even now like Cedric Russell or Justin Arns. But they got something from just about all of those guys. Malachi Branham started, didn't give him any points. He was turning the ball over too much. So he got sent to the bench, and other guys stepped up. Eugene Brown played some minutes defensively, but Cedric Russell had 7 key points in the end of the first half, where he played 10 minutes in the first half, and then he scored all of his points in like the final 4 minutes of the game to build Ohio State's lead up to 5 at the half. Michi Johnson had some big threes, had some big assists as well, some key passing, and just showed some aggression and was able to convert. Jamari Wheeler with 9 points. Anytime you can get 9 points from him, you take it. 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and these guys were attacking the basket and looking for their shot. Now, they don't do that constantly, but they're not just immediately looking to pass the ball when they get it. And really their remaining threats overall. And so that they were able to, they didn't get beaten by the Wisconsin guards. It wasn't the advantage that you thought maybe it would be. And so you get 7 or 8 points from 3 or 4 guys, and it can equate to the 30 points that the other backcourt gives you. So it was a good job by them. Defensively, they're also really, really good. Davison, 4 of 12 from the field, had really only a couple of good looks. And Davis is just a really good 6'6" guard who can get his shot over a lot of guys, but they held him relatively in check. They made it difficult for him when the game was still on the line.
And so that's the Buckeyes move to 2-0 in Big Ten play. They're about to get back out of conference play. They're going to play Kentucky next weekend at the CBS Sports Classic in Las Vegas. They're 8-2 overall right now. Kentucky, the number 10 team in the country. It feels to me, Tony, like they've done a pretty good job. I mean, they're 8-2, but it feels like they're doing a pretty good job of playing a pretty strong non-conference schedule this year. That seems like something that's going to pay off. You talk about a non-conference schedule that always you always get into the conversation about tournament seeding and quality wins and top quartile wins and all that stuff. But besides the bracketology piece of this, it just feels like that's going to playing so many good, strong opponents is really going to have this team pretty battle tested when they get back into the heart of Big Ten play back in January.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked for Tom Izzo over the years where you load up on non-conference schedules. And that was one of the things Chris Holtmann, the day he was hired, talked about wanting. That's something the fans told him they wanted, was better non-conference schedule. Now, this is the toughest one he's put together, and I don't know that he'll put another one together like this. But it is something where, even the preseason or the early season tournament they had where, they could have played somebody, Cal or Seton Hall, and he wanted Seton Hall because Seton Hall was going to be a tournament team. So they're testing themselves that way. Anytime you sign up to play Kentucky, you don't know whether you're getting the number 1 team in the nation, the number 10 team in the nation, or perhaps arguably the greatest college basketball team you have ever seen. And so that says some things right there. And of course, being part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge, you're going to expect something there. So this has been a fun non-conference, but yeah, one that prepares them well for the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is always solid. Purdue, the number one team in the nation for one or two more days here. But it's a good test, and it's also good for the fans, because they've been, they've had to suffer through a lot of McNeese State, Central Connecticut states, and in the Valley City Arena.
Tennessee Martin and New Orleans are still coming to town. Santa Claus coming to town between those two, but Tennessee Martin coming on the 21st, New Orleans coming on the 28th. So there is still there's some McNeese State adjacent competition coming to Columbus. But yeah, if you can have the top of your non-conference schedule look like that, that's pretty good. Tony, as always, thank you for joining me.
Yep.
So with the basketball talk done, we can get back a little bit to football and looking forward a little bit. Rose Bowl coming up, as I said, in less than 3 weeks, 20 days from the Rose Bowl. Cannot wait. That should be a lot of fun. Buckeyes will be back on the practice field this week getting ready for that. It is going to be a fascinating few weeks as we sort of see our guys opting out. Are more guys going to hit the portal? Who's making that trip? Who's not making that trip? Who's going to play? And oh, by the way, Wednesday is early signing day. So should be a lot to talk about this week. And a great place to do that is on BuckeyeScoop.com. We have a very, very busy team this week. Kevin Noon was in New York covering the Heisman ceremony. We'll have a bunch of coverage of basketball and all the football and all the recruiting stuff this week as well. You can find that all at BuckeyeScoop.com. We have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. Tony and I did a live show on Saturday afternoon, just kind of answering some listener questions, viewer questions. You can find that on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. If you want to be a part of the next one we do, best way to do that is to hit the bell on that YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop, subscribe to that channel, and then you get notified when we go live, so you can be a part of those shows. If you prefer to listen, if you are listening to this as a podcast, you're like, I don't want to watch it on YouTube. Great. Good news. We have a solution for you. Search Buckeye Weekly on your podcast platform of choice, and you can find that episode there. Did a lot of conversation about the potential future coaching moves and transfer portal stuff and a whole bunch more. That's all at on whatever podcast platform you're getting this on. You can get that show. You can search Buckeye Weekly to find that one. You can just also search Buckeye Scoop and you find all of our shows there. You can subscribe right there and leave us a 5-star rating and review, which helps other folks find those shows, which we do appreciate. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.